guys, sorry about that. The video cut off. I used the free version of Screencast-O-Matic, if you're wondering, and the free version only allows 15-minute videos. So I'm going to make a quick little video for the last couple problems. Hopefully you got enough out of that paint problem. I know it cut off right before I finished talking about it, but here's some more of the work that I did, and you can just see how I scaled up the 1/5, how first I scaled it down from 2/5 to 1/5 so that I could scale it up by 5 to get to 1 room. And then of course the corresponding number of cans. So hopefully that made sense to you. Let's go to number 9. We'll do 9 and 15, and hopefully this video will be much shorter. All right, so number 9, again, we're in section 5. Number 9, write a word problem for 3/4 times a half, and then another problem for 3/4 divided by a half. And these are two confusing pieces. A lot of times when students in this course, and I'm using like this content course at MSU, a lot of times when students write problems for 3/4 times a half or 3/4 divided by a half, they confuse the two of them. I always try to reinforce the idea that when we multiply, we're finding groups of. That's our definition of multiplication. So if you think of that as groups of or of, that's going to help you tremendously. All right, so here's a word problem that I wrote for 3/4 times a half. You know it's going to be about cooking, and of course it is. So Jessie wants to make 3/4 of a recipe, and the recipe calls for 1/2 of a cup of oil. So how much oil is needed? Well, 3/4 of a half is what I am thinking of, and 3/4 of the recipe, so 3/4 of a half is 3/8. If you wanted to think of a half times 4/8, you might be able to visualize it or have kids visualize it a little better, thinking about 3/4 of 4/8 as being 3/8. And then the division problem, 3/4 divided by a half, is 1 1/2. So in this case, we're going to remember that we're trying to figure out how many groups of a half are in 3/4. So in this problem I wrote, Jessie has 3/4 of a cup of oil. That's what she has. And a recipe calls for 1/2 a cup. So how many batches of the recipe can she make? Well, since she has more than what she needs, then it's going to make sense that she can make more than one batch. After making one batch, she's going to have 1/4 of a cup of oil left, and that's of course going to be enough for 1/2 a batch. So she's able to make 1 1/2 batches. All right, and then the last one, number 15 in section 5, reads, Tran writes the following word problem, 1 3/4 divided by a half. There are 1 3/4 pizzas left. Tran eats half of the pizza that is left. How many pieces of the pizza did Tran eat? And then Tran shows the diagrams down below here. And he says they show that 1 3/4 divided by a half is 1 1/2. So even though Tran gets the correct answer to the division problem, explain why his problem is not a correct word problem for 1 3/4 divided by a half. And then you have to write a correct word problem for 1 3/4 divided by a half. That is about 1 3/4 pizzas. All right, so hopefully this one didn't confuse you guys too much. I picked this one out just because it's a pretty common place to kind of reveal some misconceptions that you might be having. All right, so 1 3/4 divided by 2 is going to give us 7/4 times a half, or 7/8. So his answer of 3 1/2 pizzas, it makes sense to him because 1/4 of the pizzas is one piece, and if the pizza were cut into different numbers of slices, then 3 1/2 pieces would not make sense. So I'm hoping that makes sense. You might want to go back to that diagram. So 1 3/4 pizzas are left. And so Tran says that this is half the pizza that he started with. How many pizzas did he start with? Let's move that out of the way. How many pizzas did he start with? So that's the new question that I think we can ask based on this problem. Or you could think of it as 1 3/4 pizzas are left, right? So Tran wants to make take-home packets for guests with each packet. Here's another problem. Think of it this way. He has he makes take-home packets for guests with each packet containing half of a pizza. How many packets can he make with the 1 3/4 pizzas? So or how many pizzas can he make with what he starts with. So hopefully that makes sense a little bit. I know it's cutting off the bottom and it's distracting me a little bit, but hopefully that helps. Thanks for sticking with it, everybody, and I hope you're having a great week.